Strange phenomena are occurring above the skies of New York City. The skies appear to be lit with fire and debris. A strange alien visitor is seen hovering over the cityscape, and some residents are calling him the Silver Surfer. It turns out that this international traveler is the herald of the all-powerful being Galactus, who is not only headed to Earth, but intends to devour Earth. Only Dr. Reed Richards, formerly with NASA, has offered any explanation for the strange scientific phenomenon that are occurring. And only Marvel's first family, the Fantastic Four, might be able to save us. Welcome back to Popula. Happy holidays from Popula. It's been a while since we've had a chance to connect, and I'm glad that we are having a chance to do it one more time before the end of the year. Today is a special day because we're going to talk about something, well, fantastic. Sorry, I couldn't help myself. About 40 years ago, Mego, the world's greatest company, was in the midst of, did I say 40? I meant 50 years ago. Mego was in the midst of releasing their legendary world's greatest superheroes line. This included characters from Marvel and DC, and Fantastic Four figures were released, I think, in 1976. And just recently, this past summer of 2025, Mego reissued the Fantastic Four for the first time in, like I said, about 50 years. So today we're going to go over that set of figures. We're going to talk a little bit about the history of the characters, because we always like to work in some history as well when we talk about these things on Popula. We're even going to touch on the new movie that was released, the Fantastic Four movie that came out this summer from Disney. And we're going to look at some classic comics even. So let's just jump right into it. If you've been watching this channel for a while, you know that we like to cover retro toys. That's one of the things we focus on. We did a video early in the year. It was one of our first ones, and it was about the new Marvel Megos. And the first set that we reviewed, we made a video on it, was of 4 Spider-Man characters. Now, this is the second set, the Fantastic Four. So we got the Spider-Man figures, I think, last Christmas, right at the end of the year. The Fantastic Four came out in the summer. There was a promise that there were going to be quite a few more sets. We haven't really seen any of those other sets yet. We'll talk about that more in a moment. But first, let's look at the Fantastic Four set. Let's start to break it down for you here. To save us a little time, I did unbox the characters already. They came in the 4 individual boxes, which we'll look at. They came in this one larger box here. And it's got a nice photograph of the characters on the back. If we flip it around, it's more of a window box, and the 4 boxes were inside of it. And I want to draw attention here to something that I really didn't give much coverage to when we did Spider-Man, but the collector's coin is really cool. We'll try to get a close-up of that for you too, but there's a collector's coin in front of the box, and it does have an image of the FF etched into it, which I think is really nice. Maybe at some point I'll consider taking that out and displaying it somewhere. But that's the big box right there. These are the individual boxes, and they are, you know, the classic Mego window boxes. They were just like this. Mego figures used to be sold in the 70s with the window in the front, so you could get a good look at the figure before you decided which one you wanted. But we've got some nice Marvel artwork on the back, kind of like classic Jack Kirby era 1960s Marvel. We've got the Thing. We've got Mr. Fantastic in this set. We've got the Invisible Woman. The original box said the Invisible Girl 50 years ago. And we've got the Human Torch. You know, I was having a conversation with a friend recently about these Mego figures. And he asked me, I kind of wondered what toys he was into as a child, because we're the same age. And he asked me, where would you find these things back in the day? Where did they sell them? And my answer to him was, well, everywhere. one of the cool things about shopping back in those days, if you were dragged along to the stores by your parents, was you could find these, and they were always displayed in the most beautiful way. These boxes, these window boxes would be lined up together, rather like this, and they would have the figures in them. And you could find them everywhere. Department stores back then sold a lot of toys. So here in Houston, we had a chain of stores called Foley's, and you could get them there. At Sears, you could get them, Kmart, certainly at Toys R Us, Woolworth, pretty much anywhere. And of course, back then, they were probably like $4, $3 or $4, right? Think of their value now if you have the originals. Now, I did have the FF back in the day, but I'm glad to have them back again today in their new forms. So we're going to take a look at those figures right now. And as usual, we're going to give you a close-up, nice look at each figure so you can see them in 4K. But the first thing that strikes you when you look at these figures is that they do really look like the originals. They're not exactly the same. We're going to talk about the ways that they're different, but I was just delighted to have the Thing, Ben Grimm, back in my collection because when I was a kid, he was definitely one of my favorites. Just the design of the character is so cool with those rocky fists and the head sculpt that looks almost identical to the comics. And then, of course, he's got this cool bodysuit that's, styled to look like it's made of rocks. You've got Dr. Reed Richards, who I think was my favorite Marvel superhero as a kid. I was just a big fan of his. He was he was the savior of the universe a lot of the times. He was the smartest man in the Marvel universe. And just like the original Reed from the 70s, this one comes with I guess you'd call them the mitten-style gloves, the plastic mitten-style gloves. And he's got the little black beetle boots. And quite a distinguished-looking facial sculpt, including the salt and pepper on the sides of his head. He always had those distinguished-looking professorial streaks of gray at his temples. You have his beautiful wife, Susan Storm, a.k.a. the Invisible Woman, as she's now called in Marvel Comics. And she has the ability not only to turn invisible, but to project force fields and all kind of cool superpowers. She has saved the team more than a few times with her abilities. And then we have her hot-headed brother, Johnny Storm, the Human Torch, who was a teenager in the early days of the Fantastic Four comics and just kind of an impetuous youth, if you will, the guy who was always ready to jump into a dangerous situation. If you read Fantastic Four comics or anything like that, or watched the cartoons, you also know that part of the fun was his relationship with the Thing, Ben Grimm, because Johnny was a prankster and the Thing was often his target. And the banter between the two of them is part of what made the series so much fun. So the Fantastic Four are back. Like I said, we're going to talk a little bit about the ways that these differ from the originals. They're not quite the same in terms of construction. And it seems like with these new figures, whenever a new remake or reissue occurs, you get a little something that you didn't have before, and you also lose a little something. So these are more sturdily constructed, like all the new Megos are, because they got rid of the bands inside the body. Old Megos used to have it was almost like a rubber band inside that would hold the four limbs of the figure in place. But the band would sometimes break and then the figure would fall apart, right? Like a Jenga tower. They'd just fall apart. Now they're more sturdy. They don't have the bands inside. And there's a little more articulation than there was before. If you look at the Thing, for example, I do not think that his wrists could move before. They can now. They used to be kind of like just attached to his forearm. And I think he also is able to bend at the midsection now, which is something that he was not able to do in the past. So that's cool. The thing is, there's a couple of upgrades or changes that I wonder, why they made them. If you look closely at the thing, you'll see that his belt isn't really attached to his trunks. I don't know if you can see that there. I'm kind of lifting it up to separate the two. Whereas in the old toy, it was just, it was all part of the bodysuit. I don't know why they felt the need to separate that. The joints are the main thing I want to talk about. The joints tend to be stiff on these new Mego figures. I actually don't want to bend them in the middle of the arm because I'm worried that it might break. They're very stiff, very stiff. But those are somewhat minor complaints. They look cool. You could still enjoy them. You could still have a good time playing with them if you want. Reed Richards has the what I call the pop-up collar, which again I'm not sure why they would do that. The collar seems to be separate from the rest of the outfit. It does pop up at times and you can press it back down. But just to give you an example, I mean, this could have been easily solved. Mego put out another DC character not long ago, and they solved the problem by just stitching the collar down to the uniform so that it doesn't move. Here it's kind of up and down. So those are the Fantastic Four figures, and I want to show you some other things that I got. This is something that when I saw it, I just knew it was gonna scale great with these Mego figures, and so I bought it. And what is it, you might ask? Is it something that you can pick up? It's actually, let's see, a popcorn bucket. So I got that when I went to see the movie this summer, even though, it was a pretty pricey bucket of popcorn, let me tell you. But I wanted to have it. It doesn't really have seats inside. It's a popcorn bucket, so you can't put your figures in it. But on display with them, you have to admit it looks really nice. Again, if you're a Marvel aficionado, you might remember that back in the old days, in the 60s, the Fantasticar, as it was known, it had kind of it was cool, but it had kind of it was definitely function over form. It looked more like a box. It was kind of like a box that would separate into 4 individual cubes at times. But it definitely didn't look cool like this. They gave the Fantasticar a very sleek upgrade in the movie, and it does fly in the movie. And seeing as how the movie takes place in the 60s, it takes place in the same era as the original comics. I thought, well, I got to have this thing to go with my Mego Fantastic Four. It's so cool. What did I think of the movie? I thought the movie was the best of the adaptations that we've seen so far. And keep in mind, Marvel has tried with these characters 3 times before. So I guess in this case, the fourth try really was the charm. But I thought the movie was pretty good. I am not like a Marvel cultist. I don't go to see every movie. I saw almost none of the TV shows because I think they kind of flooded the market with too many of those. But if a movie interests me, if it looks good, I'll go see it. And in this case, I had to go see it because the FF were probably my favorite characters, Marvel characters, when I was a child. And I thought it was really good. The part, I don't even have to think about what my favorite part was. My favorite part was seeing Galactus at the end of the movie come to Earth, and to see him depicted in the correct way. They'd had him in one of the previous movies, and he was like a giant cloud or something. But no, to see him as the way he's supposed to be in all his glory, with the perfect kind of Jack Kirby design, and just coming down into 1960s New York and smashing buildings and things like that. It was just incredible. it was quite a thrill for me to see that. Seeing him was almost worth the price of admission alone. Never forget the name Jack Kirby, kids. Jack didn't live long enough to see all the glory that the Marvel characters would enjoy once the movies started becoming these billion-dollar things. Jack passed away in the 90s, but without him, there would be no Marvel. He designed the look of all the iconic Marvel characters. And not only that, but it was often his ideas that led to the creation of the characters. He would tell Stan Lee, because Jack was the artist, right? And Stan did the scripting. Jack would say, I've got this great idea for this type of character right here. And then things would kind of come into fruition after that. Of course, Fantastic Four fans know that 48, I believe it's issue 48 through 50, is the Galactus saga, the coming of Galactus from those original 1960s comics. And that's kind of what the new Fantastic Four movie from Disney and Marvel adapted, where the Silver Surfer comes to Earth and Galactus and the FF has to figure out how to deal with him for the first time. Speaking of old comics, I've got a couple that I wanted to share with you right here. This is, I don't have number 48 through 50. Unfortunately, that's a gap in my collection, and I want to make sure that I fill that at some point. I do have this, issue number 25, which features an epic battle between the Thing and the Hulk. And it was really exciting. I'm definitely not going to unbag it and unboard it right now. It's not in the best of condition to begin with, but I'm glad that I have it. I remember reading this. I picked it up at a comic store in the 80s. By then, it was already 20 years old. And just being thrilled by the clash between the Thing and the Hulk. And the Thing's bravery, Ben Grimm's bravery, and the taunts that he would give the Hulk, such as referring to him at one point as Little Mary Sunshine. The Thing teased the Hulk by calling him that. And as a matter of fact, let's see, I'm going to get the Hulk out. This is an original Mego Hulk from the 70s. I'm going to put him up against bashful Benjamin Grimm. Okay. And let these two old foes face off again for the first time in a long time. Now you'll notice that the Thing is actually a little bit larger than the Hulk. Why is that? Why was the Hulk always the shortest Mego figure? It baffled me for decades. I mean, come on, Robin the Boy Wonder was like a head taller than the Hulk. Is that right? Of course not. But I had a chance to actually ask Marty Abrams, the president of Mego, that question personally. I asked him, why was the Hulk always so damn small? I've had the privilege of interviewing Marty a couple of times, and he gave me a one-word answer before bursting into a laugh. He said, money. That's why. They didn't want to spend the money to make the Hulk the size that he should be. And then in this issue right here, which is the very next issue, Fantastic Four number 26, as you can see, the Avengers take over. And this is another great action-packed issue. Among the highlights of this one is Captain America actually judo flips the Hulk, which is pretty cool. And we're not here to talk about the Hulk. The Hulk will get plenty of love in future installments. In particular, a certain version of the Hulk. You might be able to guess what version of the Hulk we're going to cover in the future. If you think you know, let me know. We're not here to talk about the Hulk or the Avengers, but the Avengers have taken over here, as you can see. They've come in to assist the Fantastic Four, or to take over in the handling of their ex-colleague, now gone rogue, the Incredible Hulk. You know, all of these characters, almost all these characters who are on display here, including Galactus, were a big part of the comic called Secret Wars in the 80s. And that is probably, those 12 issues, Secret Wars, are probably my favorite thing that Marvel ever did. I remember buying every issue when I was 12 years old at my local comic store, and then discussing every issue with my friends in the schoolyard after we'd read it. And it was a big event, the biggest thing Marvel had ever done up to that point, because it was the first time all the heroes, Fantastic Four, X-Men, Avengers, Hulk, Spider-Man, everyone came together in this one massive event. And they had to battle against all the Marvel supervillains. A godlike being called the Beyonder had pitted them against each other and saying, if you slay your enemies, everything you desire will be yours. And I was going to dig out my copy of Secret Wars #1 for this, because I still have all my 12 original issues. I didn't pull it out of the closet. We had enough to talk about, but that is just a great comic series that heavily features the Fantastic Four. And here's a trivia question. I'll give you a trivia question. Who was the winner of Marvel's Secret Wars? If you know, let me know in the comments. It was, I'll say it was a character that's Fantastic Four adjacent, but there was one character who defeated everyone else, including Galactus and the Beyonder. There are a couple of more Marvel movies to look forward to. You know, I want to see Doomsday, which is coming out a year from now, featuring the Fantastic Four nemesis, Dr. Doom. And then after that, in 2027, they are doing the movie of Secret Wars. So that's something that I've waited almost my whole life to see. And you can bet I'll be there on opening day for those two movies. I want to circle back to something I said earlier in the video about where Megos were found back in the day. I remember those were some of my happiest memories as a child, because I guess, you know, they caught me at just the right age. I mean, I was probably like, definitely like preschool. I had not even hit kindergarten yet when these cool figures started being released. And it was just a very different time. You know, there was maybe the earliest Atari video games existed, but there weren't really video games. There certainly was no streaming. There was not even an internet. So, you know, you made do with what you had, but these things have stood the test of time. They enabled kids like me to use our imaginations and create our own adventures. What memories do you have? I want to hear about it, about your happy moments at Christmas during childhood. I have pictures going back 50 years to 1975, some of my very first Christmases, where I was the very happy recipient of some of these figures. So I want to hear about, you know, what was your favorite toy to unbox back in the day? And did you have any of these figures? Now, one more thing I want to say about Marvel and Mego is something that I alluded to at the beginning of this video. If you go back and watch the video where I reviewed the Spider-Man figures, I mentioned, because this is what we thought at that time, that there were going to be 4 waves of figures in 2025. Instead, we got 1 wave, and you're seeing it right here, the Fantastic Four. That means there were supposed to be at least 12 more figures that came out in the year that didn't come out. And in fact, all Mego product has been on hold for a long time. It has to do with the cost of bringing them in from overseas. But what characters did we miss out on? Hopefully, it's not going to be canceled. Hopefully, we still have all that to look forward to. What characters do you want to see? We got 4 Spider-Man related figures. We got the FF. And remember, Mego isn't limiting itself to just reproducing old stuff. They're adding in new characters that they never made before. So what do you hope to see? Hopefully we get the rest of those Marvel superheroes. I really hope we get them. I would love to see an Avengers wave. I'd love to see an X-Men wave. And how about a wave that's all villains? Wouldn't that be great? Well, I think that I have touched upon everything I wanted to in this final episode of Popula for 2025. I do want to thank you. We've only been doing this for about half a year, and it's been great fun so far. We want to keep doing it. Hopefully with double the output, at least in 2026. So your support means everything. After we issued our last video, we got quite a bit of new subscribers, and people were really engaged, leaving comments and things like that. And I really thank you for all that. I want you to leave a comment on this video. Talk about who your favorite Marvel characters are. Let's help build what I call the Popula ecosphere, where we're all talking about these products. And we have ideas for some fun stuff in 2026 that we want to do. We want to branch out and start including some interviews with notable people. And one question you might have for me is, you might say to yourself, Count Popula, you've done several videos in this first year that are Marvel related. Where's the DC content? Well, believe me, it's definitely coming. Definitely. There is no bigger Batman fan in the world than me. And in fact, a couple of major franchises, including a big DC one, is hitting the 60th anniversary in 2026. So we will definitely be back. We look forward to seeing you then. And until then, as always, my friends, live long and prosper.